how we're starting the episode.
Hello.
This is going to be episode 3 of Encumbered Conversations, where I sit down with one of my mini brothers and talk about nerdy D&D stuff. I'm here with Evan, our beautiful DM, as I work on this sketch for Kraven. Evan, say hello.
Hello. That is me.
That is Evan. So, Evan is the one that has been running our Ryoza campaign. This is his kind of custom world. Was this the first time you DM'd like a big game? I can't remember off the top of my head. Did you do any other?
For actual D&D, yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so they're, because I don't ever have anything specifically planned for these. It's just us rambling. What was the first thing? Because when we first started playing, it was all homebrew stuff. We didn't have the books or anything like that. And then I think I bought the DMG, and then that kind of set us on the path of legit Dungeons and Dragons. What was your original thing? Because I'm blanking.
It was definitely D&D-esque. It was built off of a character sheet I found online. It was more Japanese flavored, but...
Was that the one that my character died by snakes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Told that if you went down a library hallway, you would die, and you were like, yeah, let's go down there.
Yeah. It was literally a giant sign saying, don't go down here, you'll die. And then you being like, this is the DM telling you, don't go down there, you'll die. And I'm just like, nah, that's where the secret's at. I know you. And then I died.
Thought it'd be funny to have an obviously wrong choice for a puzzle.
And I did not believe you. I was playing this giant sumo pacifist guy, and I was like, nah, he's not gonna kill me. And then he did. You have, out of all the D&D games I have played in, which I've played with a couple different groups, you are the only one that has killed a character of mine. And you've done it with all of them, almost, except for the one that's currently not dead.
Yet.
Yeah, I think you
have a knack of running off by yourself and doing things.
Yeah. I mean, in the moment, I feel like most of the time it's the right move. Not all the time, but yeah, I think they're fair. I don't hold it against you too often.
Character choices conflict with tactical thinking sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my characters kind of lean that way, especially here lately, where I'm just like, yeah, he's going to do this because that's what he would do.
Although, to be fair, you killed off my character for similar reasons.
That's true. I regret nothing.
That's fine.
But to be fair, all right, so Evan is the kind of player that... So what's the opposite of a mid-maxer? You are the opposite of that. You made a cleric gnome that had a wisdom of like 4.
3.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Oh, my apologies.
Back when we were rolling for stats improperly, it was a 2.
Oh,
then we had to bump it up to a 3 to make him physically possible.
That was another thing. Like, I didn't know how to roll for stats, so I was just like, yeah, roll a d20 and I don't know, take that score, which made crazy broken characters.
I thought it would be fun to play a really unwise cleric, and it was.
It was, and it's actually pretty cool because like that character, though he's been dead for like well over 2 years now, still is a prominent character in the story of my game. That I don't know. When do you think we're gonna jump back into that one?
Hopefully soon. I miss being a player sometimes.
Yeah, well, I was talking to Ian, the player of Kubrick, and he was mentioning that he really wants to jump back into that one, but like there's not enough hours in the day for all the D&D that we want to do. But yeah, I figured it's probably about time that we're getting really close. I feel like to a good climax stopping point in the story in your game right now. Plenty of material for me to animate in the meantime.
For sure.
And so, I feel like that's probably within the next couple months, probably, or actually maybe not even that long, depending.
Yeah, depending on what you all do.
Yeah. which we're behind. I mean, it's actually a miracle that we're recording this because we've all had stupid schedules the last little bit. I think we normally play every Saturday. Sometimes we get to play together and play a different game on Friday. But we've missed like the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we got some catching up to do. But I want to jump back to the old games because it made me think of something. Back then, everything we did was pretty much entirely homebrew, and maybe some, definitely legal documents that we got offline.
Of course.
And I felt like when we made the switch to play legit D&D, we kind of stopped doing homebrew things. But here lately, it seems like you in particular... Well, I felt like you were the most... what's the word? Like, you were the least likely to allow homebrew in your game. Like, you wanted to stick to the rules as written kind of thing. As much as possible. But it seems like here lately, like, you're allowing a fair bit of homebrew or test material and stuff like that.
I'd like to carefully analyze the homebrew first.
Right, because it can easily break the balance.
But even your first character in my campaign had a homebrewed subclass that we found.
That's true. That's true. That was on D&D
online.
Beyond.
Yeah. The
All right.
luck domain.
I stand corrected. You are always allowing broken material in your game.
Oh yeah. Generally, when homebrew makes it into my game, it's either less good than other options, or it's something that doesn't really have any bearing on the mechanics a whole lot.
Right. And yeah, it's a tricky thing to balance. I know, like, for example, my game, I allowed too much homebrew, and so now I have just like a superhero campaign. Like, yours is a lot more grounded, I feel like, and my game is just, yeah, sure, you're in the mood now, why not? Which is not out of the realm of possibility for some of the characters, it seems.
And it's its own kind of fun.
Yeah,
it's the anime character.
And that's the thing I love about the D&D stuff is like, I'm gonna have to fix that line later. That's driving me insane. But yeah, it's like, you find the style of game that you like, and maybe it's this day and the other thing the other day. That's why I like that our games are different, because it does allow us to kind of have a recharge, because yours is a little bit more, despite what the animation show, it's a little grittier and more realistic, as much realistic as you can get in D&D.
Right.
Whereas my game is, you want to be a Naruto character or Dragon Ball Z character? Sure. Do it.
Sorcerer, Barbarian, Paladin? Go for it.
Oh, you want to talk to unicorns? Alright, you find one.
I already summoned them enough.
I know. Yeah, you're stupid wild magic garbage.
I love the wild magic surge table.
Yeah, that new thing that just came out on... Was that officially released, or is that Unearthed Arcana, the Barbarian?
New Barbarian, I think it's still Unearthed Arcana.
I'm not convinced that you didn't make that yourself, and because it's like, that is your character. Like, so much of it is, if they had that out there when you made him, that would have just been like the perfect choice.
Yeah, definitely.
And now you're just like this weird... You're not broken. Like I said, you're the opposite of optimized. You split your stats 3 different ways, and I don't know.
Well, that character I rolled stupidly good for his stats.
That was like the legit way of doing it too. Like, I think we've only had one character that's rolled better. I have a backup character that, I partly want my character to die just so I can play him, because he's got like 20s and everything. But yeah, he is, your paladin, barbarian, and all the other things you are class is really stacked.
Yeah, I remember the night I rolled for his stats, I emailed you and said, hey, are these stats okay?
Oh, yeah.
They're legal, I promise.
And now whenever you roll a new character, you send me videos of you rolling it to ensure that...
Can never be too careful.
Yeah, I remember one day I was just like laying in bed, and I think you sent it on like Snapchat or something, and I just like, it's just you rolling dice, and I'm like, what is this? Why is he doing this? All right, good job, buddy.
I'm a fan of game rules.
Yeah, and I think, the Critical Role debate that was happening between Liam O'Brien and Sam Riegel. I think that there's merit to allowing the structure of rules to kind of, what's the word, dictate the fun sort of kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think the more that we've played, the more I've definitely taken some of your approach to DMing. I know that for sure. And there's not so much now because I feel like we've all played as a group long enough to kind of know where everyone lands on certain things. But there was early on when we were trying to find a group and play with different things, there were definitely times where I should have said no and stuff like that and not allow certain homebrew things. But I was like, no, it's gonna be fun. Do what you want to do. It'll be a blast. But yeah, is there anything like what are some homebrew rules that we've got going on in your campaign right now that you particularly like?
The biggest one that comes to mind right off the bat is the way we do criticals, with just roll the dice and double the entire damage. It makes criticals always exciting.
Yeah.
Both good and bad.
What is the real rule?
The real rule is you roll the dice, double the dice, and then add your modifiers. But that, you could roll a 1 and end up doing less damage than normal on a critical, which is super lackluster.
Kind of meh. Yeah, it's a big deal whenever... all right, oh wait, no, can't talk about that. That's spoilers. That might come up. I was like, that's a different campaign, but it's not. Yeah, that's fair. And then I like the to going along with kind of the realistic stuff that we've shot for in this game, the fall damage increase.
Oh yeah.
I really like that one, even though it really only hurts us as a party. I don't know. All your villains have flying and are dumb birds. Literally every animation that I've done has had a flying creature, and one thing that I'm terrible at, like, I hate drawing wings. They're awful, and every freaking character or villain that I've had to draw, I believe, has bad wings.
Yep.
But
it would have helped with the griffin that was crashed by good old Kubrick, but that was before I found that homebrew rule.
That was the encounter that kind of set that homebrew rule in motion, right?
Kind of, yeah, because the fall damage on that was just dull.
They fell from this massive thing that should have realistically killed them, but it was actually Kraven that got the final shot. And yeah, that's kind of how these Encumbered conversations started, is because after that game we talked about that for the longest time.
Mm-hmm. I forget the formula, but it definitely ups the danger threshold of falling.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot more realistic of like, yeah, if you go outside on your roof right now and jump off the roof, you're probably going to be hurting for the next couple of days.
Yeah, best case scenario, some broken limbs.
But yeah, it does take into consideration that, for the most part, these characters are some sort of hero, ideally. I don't know. Alright, our 7 viewers, I'm going to rotate the canvas, and it might suck to watch, but I can't draw this arc without doing it.
Just rotate your computer as it rotates the image.
I don't think that's how video recording works.
I don't know. I don't use computers.
Yeah. Spend all your time looking up homebrew rules.
Yeah.
Ah, man.
And at the library, I guess, if I don't use computers.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another. Is my ranger class the first like homebrew thing that you've made yourself that we've put in the game?
That we've put in the game. It's definitely the biggest homebrew undertaking I've done. I've homebrewed a couple feats, but those were small tweaks.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, homebrewing a whole class was quite the endeavor.
And yeah, so you've kind of Frankensteined, not to make this about Kraven, but I'm going to because I want to. But you kind of Frankensteined a bunch of other people's things you found online and kind of took the pieces that you liked and made a new ranger class. Would you talk about kind of the process of that and kind of why you did that instead of just keeping the class the same? Because I feel like, homebrewing a feat or a game mechanic is a lot different than homebrewing a whole different class thing. Like, that's a lot more work.
Yeah, for sure. So I love D&D 5th edition. I think almost everything is balanced, but the Ranger class is lacking for sure. And some of its features are just weird and confusing. And a lot of them can get by with just, you're good at survival anyway, so you can do this anyway. Like tracking your favorite enemy, you're proficient in survival, you should be able to do that without a special feat helping you.
Right.
So to make my life easier, I then found as many good Ranger subclasses, or Ranger classes I could find online, and picked the best parts, threw out the bad stuff that made it either too overpowered or just kind of boring. Because a lot of them were just upping the damage and stuff, and that's not what I was hoping for. I was looking for more of my ideal version of what a Ranger
like
is.
What it should be, and yeah.
Little, some thinking of, is his name Aragon from Lord of the Rings? Like the quintessential Ranger?
Aragon.
Yeah.
I think you just lost your nerd card for that one.
It's not my forte. Lord of the Rings. What did I say?
Aragon.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the quintessential Ranger, so trying to picture what he would look like in D&D.
Right.
One thing he doesn't do is obviously do magic. So I think giving Rangers spells is a little weird. So the biggest thing with my class is the wilderness is the thing that's casting the spell. That comes with quite a few benefits, but it's also less, I don't know, flamboyantly magical.
Right. I mean, overall, I'm having such a hard time with this bowstring that it's wanting me to punch through the moon. I'm just going to erase it and fix it later, guys. What was I saying? Oh yeah, for the most part, I'm a fan of the variation of Kraven that you've come up with. I think that there are some things that still need to be tweaked, having played him for a little bit as this new version. But yeah, I agree. Like, the things that he should be good at, just in general, like, the biggest thing was when they released the Scout subclass for Rogue. I'm like, that's just a better Ranger. Like, he's got the same proficiencies and everything, but he has them all the time instead of, he doesn't have to be in his favorite terrain or anything like that. So for the most part, I'm really happy with Kraven as what he's turned into. But there are a couple things that I think I agree with the magic and that sort of thing. But
the current homebrew is very weak if you are not in your favorite terrain, which is a problem. But I don't know the best way to fix it.
It's a problem, but I'm not super against it. It's like,
it's kind of the idea of a Ranger.
Yeah. The way it is now is like I have to be in my favorite terrain to activate a lot of my abilities, and if I'm not, I'm kind of poo-pooed. But that makes a fun challenge for me, and because there's certain things that I nerf about Kraven anyway. Like, there's certain abilities that I could be doing, but I've kind of set it up in his character flaws to not always do those unless it's life or death situations, that kind of thing. So I kind of like that I have to play into that more in some ways. But yeah, it makes certain kind of party choices a lot more difficult. Like right now, we're having this debate as a party. I'm like, what should we do? And my character does not want to do anything the party wants to do because he will die.
Yeah. My rationale in my mind was trying to compare it to, say, a paladin or a warlock going against their patron, that they can just snap of a finger, lose all their powers.
Right.
Kind of like that. So.
Yep, I would agree. But like I said, not necessarily a bad thing. I still think it's fun. You mentioned something about something, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll talk about that next. That was a good sentence.
Yeah, I might need a few more details.
Nope, that's all you got. Go. One thing that you do that I think is interesting, and I think it's a little bit of a newer development for you, because I feel like a lot of D&D kind of falls into the trap of kill thing, get loot, and it never really gets deeper than that. and oh, that's what it was. I had said something about party dynamics and things are getting kind of complicated. You've had a handful of like boss encounters that were not as cut and dry as just kill the thing. And sometimes it seems to specifically draw on certain characters. So, like, for example, we have in the animations right now, we just introduced the Aarakocra witch doctor lady. The second part of that encounter is going to be coming out next week, I believe. But that one was an interesting one because outside of game, we ended up talking about it for a long time on whether or not, like, what to do about that encounter or how we felt about that encounter. Because it wasn't as cut and dry as just like, this is a bad guy. Do you specifically plan for those kinds of things now? Do you try to work those in as often as you can, or is that something you just like let happen organically and kind of hope to discover?
Somewhat, I'll say. So I do try to alternate the focus of the sessions on different characters,
right,
to make sure everyone's pulled in. But also for my villains, I just try to go the DC Comics route and make villains with complex motivations. Try to stay away from just purely evil things.
Okay.
So when that villain came up, I did have in mind, since she has certain motivations, it will pull on particularly Shuzug and Kraven more so than Kubrick.
Yeah, and that's what was interesting for me specifically. Like, man, I remember after that session, I was just like, she said all the wrong things. Like, everything, like,
that was such a great thing that I loved during it. That was not planned. I kept rolling insight checks for her to see if she would know what to say to save her own life.
Oh, really?
She could not roll above a 5. So I'm like, she's just going to be straight up honest.
That's amazing.
And everything that she's being honest about is terrible.
Yeah, like, because whenever I try to, over time, develop, like, flaws and quirks and things. And so for Kraven, like, I had already had a couple picked out, and then she just went against all of them. And I was just like, this is awful. Like, Kraven hates this person.
Yeah, she was definitely in a mode of, I will say what I think I should to save my life, but she could not think of the right things to say, especially when she was talking to Kraven.
Yeah, that was so much fun though. Like I know, play the game however you want, but I love that encounter in, like, specifically because of that reason. And I would like to eventually get to the point where I can make encounters similar to that of it doesn't always have to end up in a brawl, but maybe it does, but it does for various reasons.
Sure.
Well, and that being said, I think for the most part this line work is done. I'm going to go back up and do something with this dumb string. Kraven is one of the hardest to draw because of his bow. It's hard to draw bows. He's got a dumb old wooden hand. Well, I think that's it. I'll throw together this, fix it up a little bit more, and do the paint over like always. All right, we don't have a cool sign off, so we just make it awkward, and we're just gonna bye.